Okay, good morning. Thanks to all of you for being here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to see all of you again, and love it that you are here. And as I say virtually every week that I speak, I'm just so touched and delighted to be in the room where so many people have sat and meditated, you know, and you've kind of infused the place with goodness, and so I'm just very touched that you're here. And I also see a few people I haven't seen for a while, and I'm really delighted to see all you too, and some new faces as well. So I think it's you've brought goodness to this space, and I appreciate it. And let's see what we can learn together today. We'll begin as we always do with the prayer of taking refuge. It's the first side of that prayer, and we'll do it. Oh, yeah, I forgot about this. Hang on. I've got, like too many things. I could do comedy. I could do comedy. I could do it. I just saw a play in New York City a few weeks ago where the actor playing a comic character takes 2 minutes to jump off of a desk because they can't quite manage all their limbs. Anyway, that's what comedy is all about, isn't it? Not being able to manage things. We try to keep things under control, and then they kind of spin out of control, and it's funny some of the time. Okay, so we'll begin by reciting this prayer twice in English, and then we'll recite it once in Tibetan. The 2 times in English is so that we can absorb the meaning, and once in Tibetan is to get a little of the blessing that came from the author who wrote it in the Tibetan language. So we'll start with the words in the Buddha. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. And now we'll recite it in the Tibetan. O Sangye Chudan So Chi Chonam La Chang Chu Pardu Tani Kyap Su Che Daji Chen So Ji Bei Sunam Ki Trola Penshir Sangye Druparsho. Okay, thanks very much. And next we're going to sit for just about a minute, maybe 2 minutes, just to sit and to kind of bring our, because we've just probably had a very busy few minutes finding our snacks and getting our seats. So we'll begin this session just with about a minute of sitting quietly to kind of regather ourselves for our time together. You can rest your mind. You can practice a little meditation. Okay, thanks very much. It's always good to begin with a little moment of quiet to kind of regather things. So in any case, it's been a busy week. You've seen us online the last week because we hosted Khenpo Sangye Trinley from our home monastery at Karma Dharma Chakra in Woodstock, New York. We hosted him this week from Monday night through Thursday night, giving specific teachings on Buddha's, the basic message of Buddhism, as well as some of the specific teachings of our lineage of Buddhism. And I was just talking with one of my friends here and saying that we're going to do, Lama Tom and I talked right after the last talk on that he gave on Thursday evening, and we said we should have a recap meeting. So you can watch the newsletter or our Facebook page. We're going to try to do a recap probably a week from Friday, and where we go on a Zoom call and we kind of take what he talked about and we slow it down and open it up and look at the exact topics and go over them one at a time to kind of give ourselves some more room around the topics and to see what their significance is. So we're going to do that, and that should be fun. So then also, the part of the reason I'm going to give the specific talk on giving today is because he's coming back. Khenpo Sangye Trinley is in Ann Arbor teaching this weekend, and he'll be there's a Karma Tengsom Choling KTC Center in Ann Arbor, and he'll be coming back here first of next week, the day after tomorrow, and he's going to do some commemoration prayers with us on Wednesday, November the 5th. Wednesday, November the 5th is the one of the 2 days each year. One is the lunar calendar day and the other is the solar calendar day, in which we commemorate the passing of the 16th Karmapa. And the 16th Karmapa was, I guess you could say, the ultimate founder of Columbus KTC in that he was the Lama who, when visiting the United States in the 1970s, a young couple from Heath, Ohio, came to visit him and asked him to send them a monk so that they could learn Dharma in central Ohio. Well, the monk that was sent didn't get to stay in central Ohio because he had a bigger mission, and that was to establish the Karma Dharma Chakra Monastery in New York State. But that monk that he sent to us was Khenpo Karthar Rinpoché, the founder of our center. And so, as I have mentioned several times in recent weeks, we're going to have quite a few history-related celebrations over the next 2 years in that. In 2026, in January, we're going to observe the 10th anniversary of the fire that destroyed the little church that was on this property. I think we've done okay. In the time, it took us a while, but we came back. And then in the middle of 2026, we're going to celebrate my graduation, the 30th anniversary of my graduation from 3-year retreat. I'm going to have a party here. And then in 2027, in September, we're going to observe the 50th anniversary of the founding of Columbus KTC. So that's going to be very exciting. And what's happening this week is we're not just commemorating the passing away of the 16th Karmapa, who was our ultimate founder. We're going to be observing the 45th anniversary of the 16th Karmapa's visit to Columbus, Ohio. And this is kind of exciting because to think that this great master actually came to Columbus, Ohio in 1980 is quite something to think about. The person who was the mayor at that time wrote him a proclamation, and he was given a commemoration resolution by by the state legislature. I mean, it was kind of a big deal. And so it's kind of lovely to think about that. Now, the 16th Karmapa did not come to this property, but because we were located in people's homes at that time. But it wasn't very long after that we got our first third-party center at the corner of Doddridge and High. The building is still there. So that was our first truly public-facing space, and it was right after the Karmapa was here. So we feel like the Karmapa inspired us to broaden our horizons and go farther. So in any case, this is why we're celebrating him this week. And Khenpo Sangye said, well, I can come back and lead some prayers for you. And we're like, yes, please. So Wednesday night, you are all invited to come to a prayer service that starts at 7. And we're going to be reciting one of many prayer texts that commemorate and honor the lineage of Karmapas, which was the I guess you could say the collective founder of our center. The Karmakaju lineage, who's represented by the Karmapa, is 1,000 years old. 900, excuse me. The lineage is 1,000 years old, but the Karmapa's lineage is 900 years old. And so being able to do prayers to the lineage of Karmapas and to honor them it's going to be great. Of course, there's a little complication, and that's that we will be chanting in Tibetan. But we will have booklets that everyone can share and follow along. And there will be snacks. There must be snacks. There are many, many different types of prayers that we do here on a regular basis. Most folks who come to the KTC are very, very familiar with our quiet sitting meditation that we do every Sunday at 10 in the morning. That's very widely known, and everybody's welcome to come and sit quietly and meditate together. This is a really basic practice in Dharma. It's a very basic practice of Buddhism, and quieting the mind and relaxing the mind and practicing mindfulness and developing our mindfulness. And many, many people are familiar with the practices of metta or loving kindness that we do. And you're familiar perhaps even with the compassion meditation, Tonglen, that we do. So these are meditations that many people are familiar with, but not as many people are familiar with the chanting meditations that we do. Interestingly enough, chant meditation was the very first practice we were given by our founder, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoché. He had us chant the prayer and mantra of Chenrezig, the Bodhisattva of compassion, depicted in the statue to my right, your left, in the cabinet there. Chenrezig, the Bodhisattva of compassion, who was said to have compassion so great, so vast, that when he took the Bodhisattva vow, he vowed to remain in samsara until he had shepherded everyone into enlightenment, which is, I think, going to be a very, 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 very long time. I say he essentially promised to stay behind and turn out the light on samsara. So, but we did this prayer and practice as our very first prayer and practice that we did as a community. And so a lot of folks were just becoming interested in Tibetan Buddhism at that time, and they weren't as familiar with Tibetan Buddhist styles of quiet sitting and compassion meditation, but everybody knew mantra meditation. Now it's the other way around. Everybody knows the quiet sitting and the compassion meditation, but very few people know about the mantra, which is interesting because that's where we started. But all of these practices serve the purpose of benefiting ourselves and others. I mean, look at what shamatha does for us. Being able to quiet the mind, being able to relax the mind, being able to see our thoughts, feelings, and emotions in real time, and to be able to react and work and engage with them in real time. That's an incredible gift, because our lives and our minds are so fast and so chattery that sometimes we don't know where we are and what we are doing. And the practice of shamatha meditation allows us to slow that process down so that we can actually begin to be more mindful about our actions, thoughts, and words. So I can see the general benefit of this practice. But there's more to Buddhist practice, because during the Buddha's lifetime, he taught for 45 years. I know it kind of sounds amazing, because many spiritual teachers don't teach for that long. I mean, by comparison, Christ was only able to teach for 3+ years in his public life. But the Buddha taught for 45 years, and his teachings evolved over that 45-year period. He started with calming the mind and learning and teaching his students, calming the mind and teaching his students about ethics and morality, so they stopped doing things to hurt themselves and stopped doing things to hurt others. It was basic. It was very basic. Calm your mind and don't harm yourself and don't harm other people. It was pretty basic, and they were able to do this. And once he had them all calmed down and doing more good karma than bad karma, he taught them about compassion and the role of compassion in changing our mental afflictions. The original teachings of the Buddha pointed to something that scholars have since called the selflessness of self. Wow, that sounds like double talk. But when the Buddha first started teaching, he had to differentiate his teachings and philosophies from other popular teachings and philosophies of his time. And so there was a great deal of interest in reincarnation, karma, and the soul, or spirit, that was given to, said to be given to human beings by God. And so there was a lot of talk about God and soul and self and all of this sort of thing. And the fact that we all had a self that was unchanging but could be purified and then brought back to perfection so it could return to God. Well, the Buddha said, gosh, when I got enlightened, I didn't experience my mind like that. He said, I did not see that we had a material soul. I did not see that we had a self that was permanent and unchanging. He said, I didn't experience that. I experienced my mind more like a stream of being that changed continuously and evolved continuously over time, and that our habits give form to. He said, so really what we think of as self is not a single thing. It's made of parts. And those parts themselves are made of parts and made of parts and made of parts. So you can't even say that the self is permanent and unchanging. And so his teachings on impermanence and interdependence became very popular. People began to understand that what we think of as the self is not unitary, it's composite, and not only that, it can change. We don't have to accept our situation in life, we can change it. We don't have to accept our situation in our own minds, we can change it. And we can become better people. He said we can become noble, because at that time it was thought you had to be born noble. It had to be born in a certain family in a certain way. But he said, no, we can all become noble. So that was his first teaching, was this, that we can all work with our minds and become noble beings. So the first thing he taught was that the idea of self is changing and always impermanent. And then in his second phase of teaching, he said, well, not just is the self concept impermanent and changing, all phenomena is impermanent and changing, ever changing, which is great because it kind of presaged science, the science we have today. Everything is made of tinier and tinier and tinier and tinier parts, and that things are always in a state of change. So, I mean, in a way, he was kind of like a scientist. Not only is our self-concept impermanent and changing, all phenomena is impermanent and unchanging. And lest that become a problem, at the same time, he taught, well, this is why you have to have compassion for everyone, because they all have the potential to become Buddhas. Every being has the potential to become a Buddha, so they're all worthy of respect. So in this second phase of the Buddha's teaching, he taught about this. And finally, when he got to the third phase of his teaching, he said that all things are empty luminosity, which was kind of a stretch, from impermanence and interdependence to everything being empty luminosity, which is really fascinating because that's where science is going now too, which is kind of interesting. Science is heading in that direction as well. I'm even reading that there are articles about consciousness being published in Popular Science. What? Anyway, so the idea is that the Buddha, in a way, understood things at the molecular level. He understood things at the basic level of thought and our experience and our perception. He understood all of these things. In a way, he deconstructed our experience of the world and reconstructed it so that we could experience ourselves and the world differently, with more mindfulness, more love, more compassion, more awareness. And so the methodologies of these three distinct periods of the Buddha's teachings eventually evolved into what scholars now call the three paths or the three yanas, the Hinayana, the Mahayana, and the Vajrayana. Those are words given to it by scholars, not by the Buddha. The Buddha just taught, and the scholars had to figure it all out afterwards. So basic quiet sitting meditation is part of this path of individual liberation, where we individually liberate ourselves from suffering. That's the Hinayana. Compassion and an understanding of the topic or the theory of emptiness is part of the Mahayana, or the path for the liberation of all beings. But then the Vajrayana, the quick path of the indestructible nature of mind, that's the path that all of these mantra meditations are related to. So the Buddha said in his third turning of the wheel, or his third iteration of his teachings, that everything is empty of everything except Buddha nature, this empty luminosity. And so the practices that developed out of this third cycle of teachings all deal with the sacred nature of everything. The sacred nature of everything. And so that's why Vajrayana shrine rooms get decked out like this. The pillars and the beams symbolize the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Noble Path, but the decorations are said to be the decorations of the five Buddha families, or the five colors are associated with five wisdoms, which are associated with the transmutation of five kinds of negative mental affliction. It's all symbolic as a way of saying everything has sacredness as its nature. So this is supposed to look like a palace on the inside. And this is supposed to reflect the qualities of Buddhahood that reside within each of us. And so being in this room is like being within the qualities of our own Buddha nature. It's said to evoke the qualities of our own wisdom and compassion. And so in a place like this, we will be doing prayers on Wednesday night that evoke the blessings of the great masters of the past. We're going to recite mantras that praise the qualities of awakening strength and tenderness and compassion and love. And then we're going to have food that will be blessed and will become, through the practice of the meditating people, It will become like wisdom ambrosia. Even snacks will become holy snacks, sacred snacks. And they will have the capacity to uplift our spirits, not just raise our blood sugar. So that's the idea behind the feast, which is what's going to happen here on Wednesday night. It will start with a series of prayers and mantras, and after the prayers and mantras are recited to evoke the qualities of awakening that reside in the various enlightened beings who are held to be saintly in our tradition, Chenrezig and Tara and the rest. After all of that is done, there will be a blessing for some food, which in modern America, it's snacks of all kinds. And in Tibet, they would make cakes in specific shapes. They called them tormas. And they would be made in specific shapes, and they would be made out of a sweetened mix of, I call it the world's biggest no-bake cookie. You know, it would be made out of roasted barley flour, butter, sweetening, and water. It's very simple. And then it's cut into pieces, and everybody gets to eat a piece, and it's like that. And but unfortunately, our ability to make those traditional Tibetan tormas out of roasted barley flour is kind of like non-existent. We don't know how to do that, so we're going to use quick oats, and then we're going to make these big, this big, sort of no-bake cookie, and then we'll cut pieces off of it and share it with everyone. The most amazing thing you could do with it is do what you do when you go to a movie. Do what you do when you read a book, a novel. And that is what did they say in literature class? The willing suspension of disbelief. For the period of the time that we are here together, we suspend our disbelief in Buddha nature. Because, we look at ourselves in the mirror. Let's face it, we don't see a Buddha. I don't know about you, but I look in the mirror and I just see more gray hair. So, I mean, right? And so, but I'm told by wise people that I have Buddha nature. My mind's nature is empty luminosity. Empty luminosity sounds fancy, but the easiest way to talk about empty luminosity is to talk about awareness. We have awareness. As Mingyur Rinpoché likes to say, he said, we're aware of what we see, we're aware of what we hear, but we can also be aware of that awareness, which is underlying every experience of our life. And being able to gradually learn how to meditate on awareness itself is a wonderful gift. And it's something that can come from mantra practice, where we visualize Buddhas and Bodhisattvas made of light and empty inside. So empty luminosity in a mantra practice becomes sort of a real thing for us. We create in our mind an image of ourselves as a Buddha made of light and empty inside. And what do we do at the end? We dissolve it all into emptiness, complete emptiness, and rest our mind in the basic, empty, luminous nature of everything. In other words, the sacred nature of everything. So the addition of the mantras, which are spoken words, the prayers, spoken words, the snacks, even the snacks, we imagine that they become sacred objects that will purify our defilements and our confusion and delusion. And so we suspend our disbelief in Buddha nature for that period of time. We suspend our disbelief in our own evolution, thinking, oh, well, I can't become like those great beings of the past. We suspend that for just a few minutes and say, well, maybe I could become like that. Maybe I could become more than what I am. Maybe there is more to me than meets the eye, and so on. And so in that kind of atmosphere, these little tokens of snacks and mantras and so forth become doorways for us to enter into the idea of becoming Buddhas someday. And so this is why I'm inviting everybody to come to the feast. It won't look like a Thanksgiving feast, no. Although I have a few friends that are trying to work on a Friendsgiving for us here at KTC. I don't know if it'll happen or not. Maybe too soon. We can't maybe get it together enough time. But I love the idea. It won't be that kind of a feast. You won't need forks and knives. This is all, old country style, So I'm hoping that being able to just come and listen, even if you don't want to follow along in the book, just come and listen to the chanting, which can be quite beautiful. And just be there to be steeped in the sort of sacredness, because the prayers that we're going to be reciting come back, they come to us from the 17th century, from a meditator who was doing a quiet meditation retreat. And during his meditation retreat, he had a vision, and he saw the Karmapa. And the Karmapa gave him teachings on the nature of mind. And the Karmapa appeared in the company of all kinds of awakened beings. And so after the vision ended, the person who was doing this retreat and felt blessed by receiving these instructions, he wrote everything down. And so the sadhana is called the sadhana of the vision of Lord Karmapakshi, the second Karmapa. And so in a way, he's trying to share his experience of enlightenment with us through this practice that we're going to be reciting. And so again, if we can do what we do when we go to a movie or read a novel and allow ourselves to enter the world of that place. I mean, if you go to a film, it happens, doesn't it? You laugh with the movie characters. For just a short period of time, you believe those movie characters are real. And you laugh with them, you cry with them. They change your ideas about things. We allow them to change our ideas about things. How many of us have gone to a movie thinking one way about a subject, but then we leave the movie and we think something different? We allow it to change us. And so that's, in a way, what Vajrayana practice is all about, is allowing ourselves to think differently about ourselves and the world. So this is, unfortunately, not what I wrote today. It's really nice that I had a chance to do that. I was going to get a little deeper into the weeds of the three yanas, and I realized that's probably not the best way to go. It's probably best to go with the actual practices of quiet sitting, the actual practices of compassion meditation, the actual practices of mantra. But I'm thinking that maybe you'll have questions. And I know I usually talk a little longer than this, but I want to give everybody an opportunity to kind of scratch their head a minute and think, well, what is it about mantra practice that I find hard to deal with? Or what is it about quiet sitting practice that I find hard to deal with, and so forth and so on? I'm kind of interested in what people are thinking and what they'd like to learn between now and Wednesday when they come to the feast. In any case, questions about anything, the question microphones are open.
Thank you, Lama Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
Could you define mantra and sadhana for us?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The word mantra and sadhana are words that we do learn as we study about the Vajrayana path. What's cool is that it's in our name. The 3 yanas are in our name. Karma, Tek Sum, Cho Ling. Karma means we're of the lineage of Karmapa. That's easy to figure out. Tek Sum means 3 vehicles. And then Chu Ling means Dharma place, the place of the Buddha's teachings of the 3 vehicles. And so most people are familiar with our Hinayana practice of quiet sitting and our Mahayana practice of compassion meditation. But let's define what mantra meditation is. Mantra meditation is both the recitation of words, of sacred words, if you want to say that. Like, because, I mean, those people who have studied yoga and some forms of Hinduism understand that mantras are sacred sounds that evoke the wisdom of specific Buddha, not, enlightened beings. And for us, it's usually the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, or the epithets of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And it's really interesting to me that one of the definitions of mantra is a protection for the mind, which I find really interesting. Because when we recite a mantra, let's use Chenrezi's mantra as an example. Om, Mani, Padme, Hum. That's the Sanskrit pronunciation. But here, a lot of people use the Tibetan pronunciation. Om is the same, Mani is the same, but it's Pe Me Hung rather than Padme Hum. Both ways are correct. I tell people, just pick one, and just pick one and stick with it. So Om is like a sacred syllable that has so many meanings, I can't even enumerate them all. But Bokar Rinpoché, in his book about Chenrezi, he says the Om refers to the awakened body of the Buddha, of a Buddha. Mani means jewel, and that's because Chenrezi is depicted as holding a jewel in his 2 hands, in the 2 center hands. And this jewel actually, it symbolizes our Buddha nature, but in the iconography, it's called a wish-fulfilling jewel. Now think about it. The wish-fulfilling jewels of legend, whether it's Aladdin's lamp or whatever, it grants wishes, right? So, but our Buddha nature, if we can uncover it and come to realize it, will give us happiness beyond our wishes. So that's kind of Mani, the jewel. Padme is the other object, the other implement that Chenrezi holds, and it symbolizes compassion and love. And the idea is that compassion in particular, because the lotus is rooted in the mud but blooms above it, so that the bodhisattva, the being who's trying to become a Buddha and learning how to become a Buddha, is rooted in this confused world but blooms above it. So Mani Padme is a way of saying the epithet or the name of Chenrezi, who holds the jewel and the lotus. And then Hung is like, Bokar Rinpoché says that refers to the enlightened mind of the Buddha. So Om, Mani Padme Hum, like that. So by reciting this, we can actually, in some ways, protect our mind from all of the usual stuff that we are doing with our mind. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes my mind takes me to some pretty weird places, and maybe not even healthy for me. I met a man one time when I was teaching in Canada. He said, he says, my problem is anger. He says, I get angry a lot. And he says, I find myself very irritated by public transportation. He says, I don't have a car, so I have to ride the subway and the bus everywhere. And I find that everybody who sits on the subway and sits on the bus with me, they're very irritating. And he says, and sometimes I want to lose my cool. And he said, but once I learned Om Mani Padme Hum, he said, I start running that through my mind when I'm sitting on the subway, so that it calms my anger. Is that okay? And I'm like, absolutely. That's really what mantra as a protection of the mind really does mean. It gives us something else to do that is more related to enlightenment than the chatter, chatter, chatter that we're usually doing. And sadhana, that's a really, sadhana, I've forgotten the exact meaning of the individual words in Sanskrit, but what it refers to like a prayer text in which we practice mantra. The sadhana of Chenrezig or the sadhana of Tara and so forth. And the sadhanas themselves have a basic construction. You take refuge and engender the bodhisattva attitude. You visualize the Buddha or bodhisattva of the practice. You make offerings to them. You recite their mantra. You receive blessings from them. And then it all dissolves into emptiness. And through this sadhana practice, we practice in a way giving rebirth to ourselves as Buddhas. Because right now we're ordinary, we look in the mirror and we go, oh, yuck, but when we do this practice for a few minutes, we entertain the notion that we are in a pure realm, in a palace, or just in a pure realm, and that we are that Buddha of that practice. And at the end, we dissolve it all into emptiness, which is a way of indicating the space between thoughts that creates our continuing experience of this world. Khenpo Rinpoché, our teacher, our founder, said, when one thought has ended, before another thought begins, he said, that's unclaimed territory. There's no flag in it. And that is like possibility. It represents the possibility of Buddha nature. And so being able to rest like that, even for a second, that's what happens when you dissolve yourself as a Buddha or Bodhisattva into emptiness. And in the sadhana instruction, it tells you that when you have another thought after you've dissolved, then you instantly become that Buddha again. So that when that thought has ended, there's this interregnum of emptiness, and then from that you re-arise as that Buddha, which means that you can change your mind in an instant, always. Which to me is an incredibly powerful thing to rehearse. So anyhow, so that's the function of sadhana, is to be able to do that with a group. It's kind of nice. You can do it on your own, but you can do it with a group. It becomes more powerful when you do it with a group. So appreciate you asking about that. Okay, next. So, yeah, Michael.
I'll be honest, somewhere along the line of your explanation of the previous question, I've lost my question completely. I was fascinated, so it's
darn.
gone.
Yeah.
So instead, I had an observation. You can tell me your thoughts on this. Mm-hmm. I have to sort of semi-read it a bit. When we start down this path, you innocently walk through the door and you're like, show me around. I don't know anything about this
what's
place.
Up with
and
this?
You're like, oh, our classroom's downstairs and you can go over here and meditate. And at some point, I'm sitting there and you say, the idea is to become a Buddha. And I'm foolishly say, okay, because that seems easy. It's not. And then at some point, you get a really, really, really clear look at yourself sometimes. And it's daunting.
And it's what?
Daunting.
Oh, yeah.
And you think, oh no.
Oh, you mean the idea of becoming a Buddha is daunting? Yeah, okay.
Right, yeah. You're like, oh no.
Yeah. Like,
oh no.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The way I wrote this was when we start down the path of becoming a Buddha, you become aware. And then you become aware of becoming aware. And I almost had a sense of panic because I can see the distance between where I want to go and where I'm starting from. And it felt really overwhelming. And I thought, okay, does everyone go through this? Probably, probably,
Yeah.
if we're honest. But yeah, that was kind of the other thing that I was thinking about.
Yeah.
The other question will come back at some other point.
That's fine, in its own time, right?
Yes, on its own time.
But can I say something about that? I really appreciate the way you've articulated this, because I don't know if other people, anybody else had this thought? I have. Some other people have had this exact same thought. And I think that it's because we look at these images that have been provided to us of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We look at those images, and we're like, wow, that's amazing. You mean that represents my inner qualities? Whoa, and I do think the dauntingness of it is there too. So when that happens, and that feeling of being over, because I'll tell you, another variation of that is to realize that the Tibetans escaped Tibet in 1959, many of them with their lives and clothes on their backs, right? And they were scared that their traditions would die out, so they kept teaching it to people like us. And at one point I had this moment of like, oh no, they're expecting us to carry this on. Oh no, So, I mean, that gets overwhelming too. But I think a way of working with that feeling of being overwhelmed is to kind of have a sense of humor about it. And go, oh yeah, I get it. I get that. That's funny. But what I just described in the discussion of sadhana, where Khenpo Rinpoché said when one thought has ended, before the next thought begins, is this just quiet, empty territory, right? That's where incremental change can take place. Very, very small incremental change. And maybe we don't become a Buddha instantly. And we can't, and we think, when we think of the big distance between our confusion and the enlightenment that these statues represent, yeah, that can be a little bit overwhelming. But if we look at the tiny incremental steps that we can take in that direction, even if it's just like the guy I was talking about who was on the subway and he was getting angry and he just used the Om Mani Padme Hung to change his attitude. That's something we can do. That's something we can do. And so my feeling is that it is overwhelming if we think about it as a whole, right? But if we think about it as a journey of one or two steps, I think that's really powerful. Because every step we are taking, every time we sit on our meditation seat, every time we read some Dharma book, every time we hold ourselves back from saying something we really want to say to somebody because we know it's not going to lead us into a good situation, all of that is slowly walking in the direction of awakening. Okay? So if we think about it that way, it might be easier for us. When we get overwhelmed, we can just say, well, yeah, Lama Kathy said it's going to feel like that sometimes. But, then there's that old joke, like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So it's, and I'm just a total fool for Broadway. So I saw a Broadway play that covered this one time. Anyway, it's called Preludes. You can look it up on YouTube and watch some of the songs. They're taken from the psychological notes of a hypnotherapist who treated Rachmaninoff during his depression, when he had a symphony that failed and he couldn't write after that. And the person walked him through the imaginary ascending of a mountain. You look at the mountain, they said, and you think you'll never get there. But every step you take in that direction is taking you there. Everything you've ever done is slowly taking you there. So don't worry about getting there. It's really kind of interesting because in a way you already are there. You're just going through the work of being there because you know what the solution, you know what the end of it looks like. You know what the end of this path of training leads to. And you'll get there in time, when it's right. But until then, you're just going to keep doing what my buddies in 12 steps say, which is you just do the next right thing. Yeah, so I appreciate
Thank you, Lama Kathy.
No, I really, really appreciate you asking. Yes, yeah, Joshua.
Good morning, Lama Kathy.
Yeah, you'll have to get closer, man.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So the that seminar that was taking place a couple of days ago, I watched the one where I can't remember the guy's name.
Oh, yeah, Khenpo Sangye,
Khenpo Sangye. He did a mantra in English with like a different melody. And I thought that was really powerful, like, because I had like...
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, the song, right?
Yeah. Would you mind talking a little bit more about that?
I would love to. Could you grab a copy of that for me? I'll go over one of them with you for fun. Yeah, and Chang, remember to take this back, would you? Okay. Oh, this is, okay, yeah, this is like super cool. I won't take, I have to answer one more question because I want to get to this question. But I'll just give you a short version of the answer. What this is that, tiny bit of history. In the 12th century, there was a great master named Milarepa in Tibet. He was kind of a wild person who lived an unconventional life, and he lived in the mountains and caves and stuff like that. And he was really a Mahasiddha, meaning that he had like power over the phenomenal world. They said he could like walk so fast that, you couldn't see him walk. I mean, it was like he could fly and all of this kind of stuff. So he was really remarkable, but he only taught through song. I kind of think of him as like the world's first rap artist, because it was all in rhyming. He used rhyme to do this. Well, then in the modern era, in the 20th century, there was a great Lama who actually visited this property back in 2005, 2007. I get confused. I can't remember. Khenpo Sangye Trinley, who lived a life very similar to Milarepa's. He couldn't fly as far as we could tell, but he was just one of those people who lived his own life and was very awake to his own nature. And he himself wrote songs, like Milarepa's songs. And the reason I'm glad you brought this up is that Khenpo Sangye said something I had told a story I never heard him tell before, which is that when he was a young monastic studying under Khenpo Sangye in Nepal, Khenpo Sangye said, oh, you need to learn some of these realization songs. They weren't mantras per se, but they were realization songs where Milarepa expressed his enlightenment in words, And Khenpo Sangye said to him, you need to learn these in English. They'll be very important for you to learn these in English, because at that time, he didn't speak English, et cetera, et cetera. So when he came here, he said, he told me, I never know this from the first time that Khenpo Sangye had said this to him. And then he sang one. And I'll just sing like a little bit of this, because I know, of all the songs he shared, I know the melodies to 2 of them. There's 4 here, but I only know the melodies to 2. All these forms, appearance, emptiness, like a rainbow with its shining glow. Now I started too high. In the reaches, of appearance, emptiness, just let go and go where no mind goes. So, and so in a way, these songs are little teachings that if we memorize them and get the melodies inside of our mind, that I love the English phrase, learning something by heart, because you got it. No one will take it away from you. In fact, even people who study, like, dementia and stuff like that say, hey, music is the last thing to go. So we can actually sing, and what he was saying was that Khenpo Sangye said, when you are sad, sing these songs. And I think the reason he wanted him to learn them in English, which he said he never did, but now he's starting to, is so that he could help us. So anyhow.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I better give this back. Okay, thanks for asking about this. And we're going to have to learn some of these. Yeah, okay, we'll have to figure out like the format and how we're going to do it, but we'll figure it out. Okay, you're going to be our last question today.
Hi. Actually, I don't have a question,
Okay.
but I want to share something. to show my gratitude to Lama Kathy, and perhaps someone can feel the same way I felt. So this year has been very, very difficult to me. Oh, by the way, I'm Sylvia. I didn't introduce myself. And I'm new here at KTC. It's been a few months only, but I've been trying to learn a lot. And my husband, he scheduled a meeting with Lama Kathy on Friday just to learn more and stuff like that. But because I've been having a really difficult time with my family, I lost my dad recently, and I have a really, really mean brother. Mm-hmm. So he brought that subject to Lama Kathy. And I didn't even want to talk or be present, but I was there. I was just laying down, kind of super sad and crying and feel like with no hope. And I started to listen to Lama Kathy, what she had to say. And oh boy, I'm gonna tell you, I felt like my gray sky turned out blue. And I started to see the light. And I was like, oh my God, this is not about me being bullied and threatened by this person. It's about to understand that he is in a great deal of suffering. And she gave me, through my husband, the tool to meditate and visualize him, like you said, in a safe distance, just in my imagination, meditate and see him and wish him well, wish him be happy, and wish him not to be suffering anymore. Lama Kathy, you said that meditation, it will help perhaps in months, that I had to do it daily, and perhaps in months I would feel better. I'm gonna tell you, I already feel better. And I am so grateful. So to be done with my story, a couple of days later, another bullet. I call it bullet. Every time that he attacked my family or attacked me, I call it bullet. And before, my dad was my bulletproof. But now without him, I felt like the bullets, they go straight to me or to my family. And he attacked again. And this time my mom was in great distress. And I'm so proud that I was able to handle it and help her to find peace and quiet in her mind and in her heart. So to be done with this, thank you. And this Sangha, did I say it right? It's a great community, and I'm so happy to be here. And that's all.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing with that, Sylvie. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, it is an amazing thing. It's just amazing. It's amazing, like, that things can change. Now, things go up and down because we're human, right? One day things are gonna be, easy, and the other day it'll be hard. But see, this is why a little practice every day, just a little bit of practice every day is like, that gives us the inner strength to keep moving forward in a situation. So I'm happy that was helpful to you. And I love the phrase in English where they say, pay it forward. Meaning that you receive something and then now you can become a source of goodness for someone else. So it's like that, offer that to other people when you can, so I like that. So thank you. And my thought is with you and the family, and that things continue to improve for everybody, Now, they'll be up and down, but that's okay because this is why we meditate every day, so that we have this strength that is continuously building inside. So thank you. Thank you. Because of time, we'll have to stop. But I'm so happy you shared, and I'm so happy that everyone who asked questions, I'm so happy you asked questions. And I'm continuously in awe of how sincere we all are in wanting to improve things for ourselves and for others. So, okay, it's a Buddhist tradition to recite a dedication at the conclusion. And so we're going to, we'll just do this one in English since we're a couple minutes behind. So we'll do the two prayers, by this merit, and then the second prayer, the courageous Manjushri. We'll recite both of those in English, thinking we gather together all the goodness that we've heard about. We gather all this goodness and we offer it so that other beings may experience it as well. So here we go. We'll start with the words, by this merit. By this merit, may all attain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. The courageous Manjushri, who knows everything as it is, Samantabhadra, who also knows in the same way, and all the bodhisattvas, that I may follow in their path, I completely dedicate all this virtue. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks to all of you for being here, and we will see you next Sunday. In the meantime, be safe out there, and I hope to see some of you on Wednesday night. So thank you to the sound department. Okay, all right, thank you.